with the album Uncovered this year and a range of songs for us to enjoy. Steve Harley has been working hard throughout the whole of 2020 with a brand new single out on the 18th of September. He's here now to tell me more about it. Hello, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Hello. Hi.
First of all, obviously, with your extensive career, shall we say, there's plenty in the back catalogue, and coming up with something new and different, it must always be not only a challenge in some ways, but a pleasure in many others with the work that you like to do. And this album must have been an absolute treat to put together.
It was a wonderful time. Yeah, the best ever. We took a couple of weeks at Rockfield, which is a residential studio down on the Welsh border.
Mm-hmm.
So it's beautiful countryside to wake up to, and lovely top of the range recording studio, of course it is. And I had some great players with me, a couple of guys I'd never met before, whose work I knew really well, but I'd never met them. So it was all a bit of an eye-opener. And it was weird to be with relative strangers and making the bacon and eggs in the morning, you know.
So had you not done the Lockfield experience before? That was new to you?
Yeah, I'd done a few nights at a place in Norfolk about 10 years ago with the guys, but this was quite different, yeah. But they're lovely people, and they're all of a certain age, you know, they're not kids, and you do find in probably all walks of life, but I only know this one walk of life, don't I, really? 47 years of it, and you do find that the guys who are constantly busy and are top players, real professionals, you will find that they're always really, really decent people. You don't get prima donnas and arrogance. You don't see much of that. They tend not to get the offers, so they fall by the wayside. So it was fun with like-minded, as people say these days. Like-minded people. It was a terrific time.
But somewhere like that venue has got equipment which has in itself stemmed the whole of your career, whether it be the tape machine or of back in the day, or the digital equipment that you're more used to using these days. But when you're stripping something back and doing more acoustic numbers and that sort of sound you want to get across, it's getting the realness of it without it sounding over-processed, which is probably is just as important.
You're quite right. We did all of this album was recorded on Pro Tools. It's all digital. Interestingly, the album has absolutely no EQ. You're talking about studios and equipment. Well, Rockfield's got everything, but I didn't use any of it. I wanted it. I said to my engineer, Matt Butler, I said, Matt, I want, when I get to sing these after we've recorded the backing tracks, when I sing these songs, I want to be in their living room. It's an acoustic album, an acoustic band. I don't want it to sound electronic. So there's no electric instruments on it, not even a keyboard. It's all strings, apart from some light drum kit, double bass, guitars, violin, viola, and a string quartet, and some gospel singers. It's about as organic as a recording can get. There's no EQ, no equalization, no twiddling of knobs. Basically, I said to my engineer, look, we've got the best equipment, the Pro Tools that money can buy. We've got the best microphones, including some ancient vintage stuff that he brought himself, that he owns. And we've got the best musicians money can buy. We all turned up with the best equipment that money can buy. You know, we all turn up with handmade guitars, vintage violins and double bass, you know what I mean? It's wonderful equipment. We're professionals, you know, so it's all great stuff. And I just said to him, I've got to play this. We don't even know each other, but I've got to make this sound like a band that's been together forever. And it does sound like that. That's how good they are. And then I said, like I was saying to you, I want it to be like I'm in their living room. The voice has to be. So what we did was I sang them all, the 11 titles, and up close to the microphone, you can actually hear all the P's and Q's and ticks and all the little ticks and D's and B's and pops in my voice. You can hear them all on this album. They're not. They don't irritate you. They won't irritate anybody, I promise. But you can hear the humanity in my voice and all the human elements in the voice box and in my throat, and that meant the world to me. It's honest, and you normally employ an engineer at this level to take all that stuff out. You know, they spend hours getting rid of all these irritating, well, they're not irritating, all these little noises. And I just said, that's the humanity of it. Leave them there. And so there it is. And luckily, listeners seem to be enjoying that.
It's choosing the songs as well. I mean, the energy that you've brought to this, in its own way, must have been the same as when we were looking back to Cockney Rebel days and what the 70s and everything that's happened musically from there.
Well, I've had long periods when I didn't release much, but that's as you get older, it just gets more difficult. Obviously, if young, in all art forms, you tend to be at your peak when you are young and fairly angry with life and whatever. But when you get older and a bit more settled down, mellowed, it's harder. But these songs on this album, 2 of them are mine, and 9 of them are other people's. But they're songs that I totally admire. Anyone who, I don't know, I've published about 150 songs, but anyone who does that is a songwriter by trade. When you sing someone else's song, when you make your own interpretation of another song, it's always going to be, the main criterion is likely to be, do I wish I'd written that? And in 9 cases here, the answer is definite, yes.
Well, with Out of Time, though, this is the single which is out on the 18th of September. Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, you can't really argue with the fine quality of their songwriting. But with all of these, you'll have somebody else's take on them that you will have heard, you will know, your audience will know. So what is it, and how do you deconstruct that before you put this together in the version that you have here?
All of these songs I've been singing forever at home. I play a lot of guitar at home. A lot, even during this terrible few months of lockdown, whatever. I haven't stopped playing because I want to know I'm match fit. You never know when you're going to play again, so you've got to stay match fit. I haven't put an ounce of weight on, thank heavens, and my fingers are still, guitar players' fingers. They're calloused and hard, and because I play all the time, and these are songs that I sing. You don't sing your own songs much at home when you're practicing because you know them. I know my own songs pretty well. So they're songs that I tended to sing around the house. And when we went in the studio, I already knew the tempo, the rhythm, the atmosphere, the attitude that I was going to record them in. And that's what I had to convey to the musicians. And as I say earlier, but being so talented and bright, they didn't have a problem with that. Interestingly, we were a bit of a mixed breed. I mean, the lead guitar playing is Martin Simpson, and Martin is very much from the roots world of Yorkshire. A top player, but very folk and roots music, not mainstream like I tended to be. The 2 in the rhythm section, Ollie and Tom on drums and double bass, they're from the jazz world. And some of these songs, they're familiar to you maybe, and maybe to my audience maybe, but the musicians, not one of those musicians knew all of those titles. There were always 2 or 3 out of that list that each one of them would not have recognised, that they'd never heard before.
Well, even to the point of one of your own songs, you added an extra verse, so it's going to be different, whatever happens.
Compared with you, I wrote, I mean, it's from 1976 originally, but I don't know what happened back then. I was very, very, I wrote songs every day in those days. But I only wrote 2 verses, and for all those years, when we've sung it live, I've done what's on the record, which is repeat the first verse as a third verse after a bridge. Well, that's a bit sort of lazy. I didn't understand what happened to me in 1976. I was a young man. I could write. Why I chose not to, and to repeat the verse 1 is a mystery even to me. So finally, Matt Butler, the engineer, who's a fan and my friend, he said he wanted me to record the song again with these players. Before we went in the studio, we discussed what we were going to do. And I said to him, do you know what? If I do, I'll have to write that third verse. And he held me to it. Daily, he would say, how are you getting on with that third verse? Oh, when I'm ready, in my own time, thank you. You know, and one morning, my dad passed away. He was in a care home and very unwell for a long time. And he not passed away, he passed away earlier, but one morning at Rockfield, we knew that his private cremation was going on hundreds of miles away. And none of us wanted to be there, all his family. It was totally, we did a Bowie, and because he wasn't a religious man. And I sat out in the sun at 8:30 in the morning in July last year, looking at horses in a field. And the dad was being taken at that very moment. I knew what was happening 150 to 300 miles away. And I just popped into breakfast and said to Matt, I've written the verse. You know, just you have to wait for the muse to sit on your shoulder. You can't beat yourself up to get words and lyrics out, you know. You have to wait for the moment. He kept asking me every day, and I'd say, look, in my own time, you know, you just have to relax, believing it will come eventually in time. I've often, through my career, I've stood at the microphone through all of those big albums, at Abbey Road and places. I'd walk in to sing the song, and no one knew that I'd only got like half of it written. No, honestly, I'd go in and just the confidence of youth, or of a young manhood, I'd stand at the microphone and say, hold on a sec. And 2 minutes later, I'd say, okay, let's go again. And I'd have 3 more lines written. And I used to put them together like that quite often.
It's all in the edit.
Yeah, in the end, it'll come to you if you are born to do it. You know, if you've got it inside you anyway.
Mm-hmm. Now, somebody whose voice I absolutely adore, alongside yours, Eddie Reader, makes an appearance on this album. And when it came down to the wonders of Fairground Attraction, her solo work, that kind of made that era for me. I mean, a good decade after your initial appearance on the music scene. But these people, they appear, and you just cannot believe the way they sound. And it must have been a joy working with her.
She's a wonderful woman. She's an idol of mine. I've been a huge fan for the many, many years. And we went to see her live with an acoustic band in Stamford, Lincolnshire, a year before, 2 years ago. And we agreed to say hello backstage at the end of the show, and I didn't know what she'd make of me. She's a Scottish folk singer, and I didn't know what she'd make of me, but she wanted to say hello. That was kind. And we went backstage, and she came out bouncing and all over me and told me that the Psychomodo was the first album she bought, and that was my second album, Cockney Rebel. And that was gratifying to, you know, to use that, you know, at least it really, really meant the world to me. And then we started chatting, and I told her about the song that I was going in to record, The Star of Belle Isle. It's a song from, it's a traditional folk song from Newfoundland, Canada. Mm-hmm. And I knew there were 2 lost verses. You can't find these verses anywhere, and I found them. Well, I did find them eventually. I knew from the folk world that these 2 verses existed, but no one else had ever sung them, or at least one man did. Archie Fisher, an old Scottish folk singer, and Archie Fisher had sung. And I found a privately made YouTube film by lots of research, and I just kept stopping the vid and writing down the words. And I got the last 2 verses and wanted Eddie in to do it as a duet. And we went up to Glasgow to record them with her. She was phenomenal. She's just a great artist and the nicest person. But as I said earlier about musicians, if you survive at a professional, respectable level, if you have longevity, then you are going to be a decent person. You don't meet people that are difficult to get along with. You don't meet them if they're over 40, over 45, and been in the business all their lives. You know, they learn humility.
But I mean, Eddie's voice as well. You talked about the way in which you have been recorded for this. I think she's got that sort of sharpness as well, I mean, and particularly for Eddie as well. I mean, her initial work I bought on CD as a teenager when it first came out, because CD gave us the clarity that we were missing off the muddy sound of a cassette tape. Vinyl's got its own warmth and magic, but CD gave you something else, which the whole digital recording world has made so clear. There isn't anything that goes away as part of the process which puts it onto recording. As long as you've got a WAV file, not an MP3, you've got the studio sound there.
Yeah, I recorded Eddie with no EQ. I mean, there's no echo on her voice. There's only what echo we could pick up in the live room, the studio. We put her in the biggest room that they had at the studio in Glasgow, and just let it flow. We mixed it down in Cheltenham studio in Cheltenham, and didn't think about it. You've brought it up. I've never thought about it until this second, to be honest. But we didn't treat her voice with anything. It's utterly natural, and we mixed it, made the album, sent it to her, said, "Hey, here you are, and thanks again." And she loves it. She didn't say, "Oh, that's interesting, Steve. You've mixed me without any echo or any EQ or any." She didn't say anything. She just said, "Oh, it's lovely. Love it. Thank you." You know, that's it. End of story. We don't discuss it.
This is an album which kind of cries out to be performed live, but that hasn't been the opportunity to do that as normal so far. So how do you see this evolving and taking on a presence in the real world?
Oh, we've done it. Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible year. It's just dreadful. I mean, I've lost about 60 shows, which means all the musicians and the crew and all the theatres that we would have hired, they're all missing those 60 shows. The theatres are missing hundreds. It's heartbreaking. Of course it is. They're at home doing nothing, earning nothing. It's dreadful. But we played 9, the 4-piece acoustic band. We played 9 shows in February and March before the lockdown. And it's so sad. I mean, we were on fire. We were on fire. It was just wonderful. They were a great, great band, great players. And I give them a lot of space for improvisation. And they liked that. And we were on fire, to be honest. We did the whole album, except one track. I think we did 10 out of 11. But that's only 10 songs. The show is 2.5 hours long most nights, 2.25 maybe. So there's another 10 or 11 from my back catalogue that come out, and it's quite a mixture. I didn't play it as I'm now going to present a new album. That's a kiss of death. I slipped them in bit by bit, you know.
Because of the familiarity of the songs as well, though, and the fact that you've sung these so often around the house. You know, they're going to feel a natural part of any set that you produce, however it works.
Well, luckily, the buyers, many thousands have sold already, and there are lots of comments on our Facebook and whatever, all over the internet. Most of them are saying that they thought that it was mine, you know. You set a high bar when you say to your engineer, "I've got to make it sound like I'm in their living room, but also as though I've written the song." You know, you've got to perform it as though it's yours. Rod Stewart has covered my song "A Friend for Life" on his last but one album, and he's such a great soul singer that when you hear it, you think Rod's written it, because he sings it like Sam Cooke and Otis. He sings it as if he owns it. That soul singing. And I've tried to do that with these 9 titles that are not mine. I've got to make it sound like a listener hears it and thinks, that's because Steve's written this great song.
Taking the credit for the work of others, but producing so much of your own stuff of the same standard that no one is going to question it. So the album is uncovered, and I say an oral treat for your fan base and beyond. if you haven't visited Steve's work in the recent years, this is well worth getting into your CD player, MP3 player, however you want to sit back and listen to this.
It's on vinyl, Jason.
And vinyl as well.
Lots of vinyl has been selling. People are getting decks again and playing vinyl. It's wonderful to know.
And again, it's the start of things. Back with Cockney Rebel, it would have been vinyl, maybe the occasional cassette. Yeah, but know, that was it. Home taping was killing music back then. You know, it was vinyl you wanted to buy.
Yeah, until the dreadful cassette was invented.
But those were not good days. However, the music lives on. These songs bring a true moment of magic to your stereo, whether it's your hi-fi turntable or whether it's coming through the streaming service on your phone. Out of Time is the single. 18th of September is the release date for that one. And again, this is just music to adore. And in fact, you're sharing it in such an intimate, real way. Through the way it's been recorded, sounds like for those people who come to these songs for the first time, they're truly going to believe that you're at the heart of them, as you are at the heart of all the music that you produce. Steve,
thank you.
Wonderful to speak to you. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much.
It's been a joy. Thank you again.
Thank you.